Okay, thank you for tuning in. We have Mary O'Connor, one of our very own CCAA members and our chair for the membership thing. Thank you very much,
You're welcome.
which we love. And Mary has had a background in advertising or in design.
Interior design, yeah.
Design. And you got to collage recently or no?
I got to collage probably 6 years ago. I majored in art in college and then switched to interior design. And I was primarily oil painting. And then when I retired 6 years ago, I do anything that comes my way. Kind of,
Whatever makes you happy.
yeah, a master of none. So I do collage, mixed media, portraits, landscape, plein air painting, and I just try a lot of things. And then, so there's overlap,
Yeah.
material overlap and everything. So, yeah.
So I will let you start your presentation, and Mary's going to show us some slides, and she also has done a little video that she's going to talk over. If you have any questions, you can either type them in the chat, or do you want interruptions, or
Yeah, yeah.
you
More than
you can
happy
ask me,
to
or
do that.
I'll ask her stuff. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I
One
put
second, Carrie,
together.
have you pinned her yet?
Yes, Pender, and she's co-host.
Except the pinning doesn't seem to be working because when you speak, I'm seeing you.
Okay, that's what somebody said that happened last time. Let me pause this recording.
You're supposed to do spotlight, not pin.
There
Spotlight.
isn't a spotlight anymore.
I see it.
Where?
Okay, so let me see. Let me spot. I think I can still do this. Let me see if I can spotlight her.
Where do you see it?
If right next to Mary's picture,
Okay.
3 little dots, click the 3 little dots, and then you'll see spotlight for everyone.
Okay, I am not.
I'm doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So I told Jolene this was good for me because I take a ton of classes, online classes. So the presentation I put together is my synthesis of what has worked for me based upon some really talented collage artists that that I've taken classes from. So I'm going to go through this just real quickly. And then I'll show you, I did a demo that I recorded so that you don't see me zig and zag and, and waste your time. So I did a demo of doing a collage as well as an image transfer.
Great.
So let me just share here. Play here. Okay, so the things I'll go through are just some principles, design principles that apply to collage because collage is intuitive, and so it's not like you can, look at a landscape or follow a photograph. So for me, the principles are somewhat like guidelines that help ensure that the picture turns out as good as possible. I'm going to show you how to assemble a collage and how to do an image transfer. And an image transfer is essentially a laser print that you can you're transferring the ink to your substrate. So whether that be paper, canvas, whatever it is. And I actually have a lot of fun with those. So just to be clear, I'm not the resident expert. So these are the artists that I've taken classes from. Some of them I've started with just some freebies. So, this will be recorded. And if you're interested in starting, if you're interested in kind of pursuing collage more, you might want to look up some of these artists. So some of them I did as freebies, and then I went on to take more classes. But Nicholas Wilton, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, he's in Sausalito, and he's like the patriarch of abstract mixed media, and real real fundamentals. He teaches an expensive 12-week class, and then you're able to really participate for the full calendar year. So a lot of these artists actually came from his stable of students. So again, it's, it's an intuitive practice. So I think the best way to look at it is to have kind of a play mindset. Like you're not doing it to produce something, because I think if you do it to produce something, you're gonna fail, and you're gonna take the joy out of it. So in my opinion, I think, doing it in a sketchbook, doing it with materials that you don't care about, really makes a difference. And then the principles are composition, and a lot of what I'll be talking about as it relates to composition, I learned from the Art to Life from Nicholas Wilton, but he has a strategy of how you keep the viewer engaged, dominant. So whether when you're doing collage, you can do it with kind of a mindset of, like not one specific star of the show, like or you can have it. So, and I'll show you some examples. And then this concept of differences, that successful paintings, whether they're a plein air oil painting, or if they're abstract, that you want to have differences, so that the viewer has interesting things to look at, so that it doesn't become flat. And then color harmony. So compositions, the thought process here, thought process here is that you want to have both a loud and a quiet conversation. So in any type of art, whether it's abstract, collage, realism, you want the viewer to be engaged from a distance, which is the loud conversation, and then up close, which is the quiet conversation. And this image that I have here is a good depiction. So far away, you see this, beautiful, sparkly black background, but then you see these detailed images within the construct of the composition. So then you would walk up close to that painting, let's say it's in a gallery, and then you can see, well, wow, look at that couple is sitting at the table. But you're seeing both loud conversation, again, which is the black and the difference between the colors and the black, and then you also are seeing the detail. And then, contrast is what provides the eye from moving around. So the areas with the most contrast provide that loud conversation. And then this is just an example that, like, Andrew Wyeth, for all intents and purposes, is an abstract painter, on how he has a light area with a very quiet conversation, all the detail, the brush, the tree in the background, the shadow in the snow. In the dark, he has the same type of thing, the detail of the wood and the basket. But then again, when you look at it from afar, it's basically it's two abstract shapes. So he's included both large, medium, and small shapes, lots of big shapes, detail, and then grouped the values, because paintings with good composition, the values are grouped. You wouldn't want to go light, medium, light, medium, light, medium, dark, dark, dark. You need to group your values to have success. And then you can do a quiet conversation in the dark. So Edward Hopper, you can see down here, this whole section is dark, and he has lots of little subtleties in the darks. Is this making sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And then to kind of a collage artist. So Eva's collages, for the most part, are very subtle. So it doesn't, the images that I showed you before were much more significant in terms of the value contrast, but it also can be very subtle. So it could be, she just has some little darks down here, and then she has, groups of lights, but they're not screaming at you. Okay, So then the next principle is dominance. And so dominance is the varying degree of emphasis in your design elements. So for example, in plein air painting, that's your point of interest. So that would be, what do you really want to feature in your painting? So in collage, some artists focus on dominance. They're not, there's not a lot of significant differences, but there's one star of the show. And this actually is just an image transfer that I did. That's the example there. So obviously the image transfer is the dominant feature. And this artist, she has these beautiful, subtle flower shapes, lots of light, and then one large graphic shape. So that large graphic shape is the dominant feature. And then a lot of collage artists, go ahead.
Back on
Go ahead.
the other one, how did she make those flower shapes?
Looks like encaustic.
Let me see if I can go back. Yes. You know what? I would say I almost am seeing like the edges of some sort of collage. I think there's, you can print on tissue paper. So if I was to guess, I think that's a transparent paper that she printed on.
Oh, you can kind of see an outline, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Interesting.
mean, I think it's just a really beautiful painting.
Mhm.
And then the, one of the reasons that it was important to include dominance in this presentation is there's a lot of collage artists that do these kind of surreal kind of images that are very realistic, but the way that they combine them, provides all the interest. So that would be an example of a collage that's specific about dominance. Okay, any questions about that? No. Okay. So then the last principle is differences. So again, kind of referring to this patriarch of abstract art, Nicholas Wilton, the way he teaches the class is that, and again, if you're doing realism, collage, mixed media, abstract, whatever you're doing, you always want to be thinking about differences, so that your marks aren't all the same, so that your shapes aren't all the same size, so that your paintings are not flat, and the goal is to hold the viewer's attention as long as possible. So so when I collage, I'd like to think that I think about this. So if I'm putting a piece, because again, you're doing this all into it. You start with a blank piece of paper, you have some collage papers, you're doing it completely intuitively. So what I like to think about is, okay, if I put a piece down and it's white, do I need to put a black item down? If I'm putting in a large shape, I need to balance it with some small shapes, edges soft and hard, line thick and thin. There's one collage artist that I really like that she'll always include some pattern in her composition somewhere. Marks, whether they're opaque or transparent, and my kind of thing right now, but I'm always bouncing around, is I really like the combination of real, like, abstract marks, like things that you do with a large brush, and then combining it with something that's really detailed and realistic. I just think that both of those kind of really complement one another. So that's what I've been trying to do. And again, when I show you how to do the image transfers, that's a great way of getting that realism in there. And it's because it's literally a photograph that you're transferring onto the canvas or paper or whatever. You're getting real realism. It's not like you're painting it and you're trying to make it real. It's a real thing. So we'll talk about that. And then color, warm and cool. So are there any questions about that?
No,
Okay.
I'm trying to follow this.
What?
I'm trying to write all this down.
Yeah, well, that's
Just
why
watch
these
it
are
again.
recorded, right?
Right.
Yeah. And this is my dump, because you gave me an opportunity in doing a demo to talk about this. So it was really helpful because I was able to take these things that I learned and for me,
Right.
synthesize it. So this is,
But you don't actually always think about this when you're doing it. You know it. It's like
if you
like
get
you said,
stuck,
it's intuitive.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of that is if you get stuck.
Uh-huh.
But I think for me, it just helps. It's like interior design, it's a lot easier to design a room if there's already a couple of pieces of furniture that somebody likes.
Right.
So to me, like when there are some boundaries or guidelines, it makes it easier again because you have just a blank piece of paper for it does help.
Do you start with something like you said, like something that is your that you think might be your favorite thing or your focus or that you like?
What I normally do is I pull, I store my collage papers by color. So I have reds, yellows, blues, and black. Um, and so I store them. So what I will typically do is I'll typically pull out one of these boxes of collage papers, and then I'll start with, something that interests me, like a piece that interests me. And then you kind of, it's almost like a puzzle. You kind of go out from there. And the demo I'm doing, I'm actually starting with this bird shape that was an image transfer, and then
Okay.
I worked around that.
Okay.
Yeah. So then the last principle is color harmony, and a lot of oh God, what's her name? I should remember. Linda Rink, who's probably my favorite collage artist. She's kind of narrowed down her practice a little bit just to work within two colors because it just helps you get to the composition a lot quicker. And then a lot of collage artists make their own papers. So if you just make papers within like a two color range, you don't get muddy colors. And, again, it's just easier for kind of keeping track of everything. So I've subscribed to that. So, I mean, here's an example. This is Karen Meadows, and she does, so she has, someone gave her all of these blueprints
Oh,
paper. So she kind of started with that paper, and then the paper was yellowed, so put a lot of yellows in there, and then has mostly blue and yellow. So that's an example of, I think, a well done um, one with color harmony, and then a little bit of orange kind of showed up. But so, and then black and white is important because if you want to, you want to think about values. So again, you want someone's eye to move around. So the easiest way to do that is with black and white, to incorporate black somewhere, or it can be a really, really deep blue or something like that. So, so collage papers, this is the other thing that makes the collage so fun, is if you like thrifting, it's really fun. Like I go to Carmel, the Barnyard, there's a ton of thrift stores. I get like old books, sheets of music, magazines. When the mail comes, I might use like the inside of an envelope. Like, I have a stack of postcards from my dad. You can embed things, in your sketchbook and in a painting that means something to you instead of it just, getting thrown away by your kids. So, or like I was in New York and I went to the museum, so my old ticket stub, I use that. So that's that part of it's fun, a lot of fun. And then you want to have both, just going back, you want to have a combination of opaque paint papers, and then you want to have transparent papers because you want to start to, explore having layers. So the transparent papers add some degree of depth into the surface. So this photograph here is just like a group of papers that I worked with on a
does the
collage.
kind of paper matter when you're working with these image transfers or when you're doing the collage?
Yeah, with image transfers it does, and I have a slide for that.
Okay, yeah.
But I use like like that, and all of these I just get from Amazon, but this is rice paper. I mean, it's, it's just, I don't know if you can tell. I mean, it's just really beautiful paper. And then, like I picked, like, here's rice paper. I had a palette, an old palette paper from a realistic painting I did that I just smushed into there. And then, I cut this up and I put it in my collage. So it's anything goes. It's a lot about like just finding tools in your kitchen to print with. It's a lot of fun. And then this, no, actually, I won't show you the other thing paper that I'm liking now is, if you go to the doctor's office and they put paper down on the exam table, exam paper, and you can buy a huge roll of that for hardly anything. And that works really well too. And then deli paper is deli paper is like when you go to the restaurant and they put your sandwich in paper. So it doesn't, so it's wet strength, that's deli paper. And that's used a lot for in collage because it's a surface that doesn't stick to anything.
Does it have like a waxy?
It's like parchment paper, like cooking
Mhm.
parchment paper. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we use that a lot. So anyway, those are kind of the
Do you
trends.
use parchment paper at all?
I don't literally use parchment paper because
Right.
the ones I found have a graph on it, but deli paper is pretty much the same. These come in like packages of 10 by 10 squares.
Okay.
So that's, I use, and then color gift wrapped is also nice to use. That's a nice paper. Okay. So I think what I'll do now, let me show you, let me just show you. I'm going to skip this for now. And I'm going to show you this, and then I'll show you the video because this will explain how to do the image transfer.
Okay.
And then you'll see it in the video. So, so that painting is this kind of, so the story behind this is,
I don't know if that will record, but
oh, okay. So the story behind this is I went out, I plein air painting at the wharf, and I painted a painting of, of this, and I hated it. So then I painted it again. And then I went home. I had a photograph, um, kind of separate. I had a photograph of a sailboat from before. I took a photograph of the wharf, and then I just did an image transfer. I just kind of did a real quick abstract blue background, and then I transferred the image. And actually, I like it a lot better than my painting. So, so that's kind
so
of
you
one
did the paint
example.
before you transferred the image.
Excuse me. Yeah. You just do. I just did because you want to transfer the image on, a painted surface because you don't want to go back in kind of after the fact and
Okay.
paint. I mean, you can, but it's nicer to have that background showing through. So that's one, where it's a dominant painting with an image transfer, but you could also do like little pieces of it. So I did one of Carmel State Beach, and there's those reeds. So I just cut like a little piece of the photograph that I printed in on a laser printer, and I put that in the painting. So it added some interest to it. So you can do image transfers for all different reasons and in all different ways.
And it has to be on a laser printer.
Yes, because laser is a powder base print, and inkjets or ink. So inkjet doesn't work. So it has to be laser. I bought like a cheap one on Amazon, but you can go to a copy center and get laser prints. So, I don't really want to go through and read this, but to me, the best photographs are ones that are not real obtuse, that you do see a lot of detail, like that example. So you see all the grass, and those tend to turn out to be the best transfers and the most interesting. You can, like the little bird that I'll show you in the demo, I just took from, there's a place called Raw Pixel, and I website called Raw Pixel, and you can get copyright-free images, and I just print them off of there. And then there's you want to adjust the image on your phone to be that have the best contrast. So what I find, and this is a lot of detail, but anyway, I filter it to Silvertone. I adjust the brilliance and the contrast so that you're just getting a really sharp image. Okay, and now I'm going to show you the video. Is there questions? Well, you'll see the image transfer, but if you have questions, let me know and I can answer them.
You said that on that thing it says you use page or to resize the picture. Is
Yeah,
it easier there than?
you can do it. I've done it in both Procreate and on just Pages on my computer. I do a lot. That's the other thing that for me, like, kind of works in my life, collage, because that's something I'll just do at night. I'm just like in front of the TV and I'll just edit some of my photographs and kind of get ready for the next day.
Okay.
So that's kind of the way I look at it.
So the image transfer, somebody wants to know how that works. So you take a laser printer and you take a photograph. You usually switch the photograph to a black and white or
Yes.
a silver.
Yeah, there's a filter on the
Silvertone.
phone that's called Silvertone. It's like 2 steps up from the full black and white.
Okay. But
And
you want just values. You don't want the colors transfer.
Yeah.
And so then you put it on the laser printer, and if you don't have one, you can go to Kinko's or whatever
Right.
and get a
Right.
laser print. And
Yeah.
you resize them to whatever you want for your painting, your particular painting. If it's
Exactly.
large or if it needs to be smaller.
Yep. Exactly.
And so then you resize it. Then when you're ready to print it or to transfer it, what do you use to transfer it to, and do you use canvas or paper, or can it be either?
So that's in the
That's
video.
next. Okay.
But
Sorry.
yeah, I'll show you how it's done. It's super easy. It's
Okay.
but it's easier to show than it is to explain.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the video has me talking.
Okay.
So yeah.
So this is the image transfer actually.
Yeah. So this is the image transfer.
I'll start by talking about the materials that I use. This is just a mixed media pad that I got from Amazon that I use as a sketchbook. I use gel gloss medium in a squeeze bottle. And here's actually the company I buy it from, Nova Color. I buy all my acrylics from them. They're in the LA area. And I set up a palette. This is a Matson palette. I just use deli paper on top of the sponge that's included in the palette. And that's where I lay down my brush in between when I'm working, so it keeps the brush from drying out, because that's the trick with any kind of acrylic medium. I use a wedge in order to smooth out the image and to get it to a fix. And then shop towels, a must. So this is an image that I printed off of a website called Raw Pixel, which there are a lot of free images available on that site, which is really great. And I used a laser printer, and that's super important because a inkjet printer is going to bleed. Totally different printing process. And what you want to do when you print it is you want to do the inverse of the direction of the image that you want. So if I had wanted this bird to face in this direction, I would be flipping it at my phone. So in this case, she's going to live over here. And what you do is you take your gloss medium and you soak your image pretty much. I mean, you use a lot because you're going to wipe off the extra. So it's just really, really important that this gets completely covered. And there's more gel medium on the image than what would potentially just soak into the paper. So, and actually I'm gonna put this bird closer to the middle for now. And then I just, clean off my brush on the substrate. So taking this off of here, flipping it around, and I'm fixing it. Okay, so the trick is not to get any of the medium on the back side of the image, or as little as possible. Just fix that, pull that out there. So what you want to do initially is just push it from the center out with your fingers, catching any additional any additional gloss medium. And then I take a sheet of deli paper. Palette that I had. Take a sheet of deli paper and I just push it out using my silicone wedge to really, really push the ink into the substrate paper. But this is actually what you want to see happen, where you actually start to see some of the ink showing through the back. If there's any gel medium that is on the side, you can rub that off, and then you want to let it dry. And actually you could just see here that it's doing its job. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll show you how to remove the backside paper. Okay, the image is dried, so I'm going to show you how to remove the paper on the back. Really easy. So you use a spray bottle of water, and I start in the center because the edges of the image sometimes are a little more sensitive. And what you're doing is you're just rolling off the back of the paper. And it's like magic. And you can see here, I use too much water. You just have to be gentle, and you have to be patient. But you'll see how the image appears. And I have found that once you get the back of the paper off, you want to coat it with some gel gloss medium. And by the way, I use gloss medium because I have found that matte kind of dulls the colors. So I typically will use gloss medium, and then when I finish my picture or my painting or my collage, I'll go back over it and I'll use a wax just to dull down the shine a little bit. So just a thought that you could use really any kind of medium that you want. So you're going to want to cover this because there might be some residual kind of white overlay. Not necessarily all of the paper comes off like it's supposed to, although this one's looking really good. But the gloss medium kind of takes care of that. And that what I love about image transfers, it just is a way to kind of, I don't know, make a more abstracted painting a little more interesting. Kind of I love the combination of abstraction and then real detailed realism. I mean, to the point that I like using the images because they are really realistic, as opposed to trying to paint a realistic image.
You can see I did like a little bit too much. You're gonna, I don't know if you could see that, but some of the ink came off there. So it does happen. I mean, they're not like 100% perfect all the time, but it's art.
When you're rubbing it off, the ink came off?
Yeah, a little bit, like right on that little bird's beak. So.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
to your canvas. So
Okay.
that's kind of what I've been.
All right, so I'm gonna fast forward
exploring
because I'm
most-
kind of repeating myself here. Let's see. Okay. So this is just the finish to be able to, you want to like, of course, use the gloss medium to kind of get it.
Gloss medium just to seal that in.
Yeah.
Get it up close. So it's super fun and easy, as you can see. I will show you a video later of making this image transfer of this bird, but I'm going to go ahead and add collage papers to it today. I have just a group of collage papers, and what I do is I sort them by color. So I have a box of blues, a box of yellows and golds and neutrals, black and whites and reds. So that's kind of how I keep track of those. So I've put together an idea of what I want to do, and I'm just going to show you how I pull it all together. So I lay down my largest piece first, and this is I select pieces based upon their kind of graphic merit, not necessarily what they literally are. So I just love all of the lines in this. This is an old floor plan of a house we had at one time. And using the gel medium, and I keep my brush in a Matson palette just to be able to keep it wet so it's viable. And I just lay it back down when I'm done putting the paper on. Lots of gel medium. I think one of the big ahas for me over the course of the last few years is that you can't get cheap on using materials. It just is restricting in your art. So I remember, once I got back to doing art full time after school and raising a family and having a career, I was pretty stingy with my art materials, and at the end of the day, that hurts you. So I use a lot, and I constantly buy a lot of tools and things. And I'm just wiping off the extra, and I use the silicone wedge to be able to get that down. And you're going to be coating it all with gel medium anyway. Next, what I'm going to do is I put this bird in here just to be able to do the demo for you, but I actually don't necessarily like the placement. So I'm just going to kind of gray that girl out a little bit. And this is tissue. It's wet string tissue paper, and I just run it through my my LaserJet printer, and that's a pattern that is a free, copyright-free image that I found online. So this, with tissue paper, it's best to affix the image using your substrate as opposed to putting the medium on the tissue paper. It's already kind of difficult to handle because it is so light. So I find it's just easier to do it. And then this sprinkles, and you just have to accept it. You start by pulling it out from the middle. And all the way out to the edge. And if you've missed a spot, you can add that. But I love using transparent papers because it just adds a layer that's a little more mysterious. And I am tempted to use the wedge to be able to press this down, but I'm going to hold myself back because that paper will rip. So we'll just leave it there for now. And this is, I haven't found this new little gadget. It actually is, I guess they're made for making confetti, but they come in all different sizes. So I have this is just a piece out of an old art magazine, and I use that just to create the shape. This is more heavier weight. I'm going to use the gel medium, but there's also, I'm sorry, the gloss medium, but there's also an option to use something called gel medium for thicker papers, which I can show you what that is. But it's okay. This is just going into my, if I was doing this for a finished piece, it would be different. But this is just my sketchbook. And that's the fun thing about collage. You can do one and, you know, in the morning, well, maybe 5 minutes is an exaggeration, but you can certainly get one done, you know, within a half an hour. So it's just fun to do. It gets your creative juices flowing. Okay. So you obviously started out here with the color palette being blues and grays. And then what I want to do is I want to add some yellow, or this is actually just gold gift wrapping paper that I think works really well. It has some, it just has some kind of sophistication to it that I use it a lot. My collages. It's not necessarily iridescent. And then if you flip it over to the other side, it has more of a green tone. So it's kind of fun. And then to get my eye moving around, this guy is popping up. So we're gonna get him back down. To get your eye moving around, I'm gonna repeat these dark blue pieces. So in the interest of the composition, to make sure that there's enough to look at. Okay. And then I'm going to repeat that on this side. And again, this isn't really to demonstrate what a finished piece might look like, but a little bit to just show you the technique, as well as just the thought process. As you can see, there's some structure. My first collages out of the gate were not structured, and well, one of the art teachers calls it a garage sale. They were just a mess. So I learned, and I do like kind of keeping some of the white. This is an invoice book that I bought at a thrift store. So I'm going to put some of that in there too. It just kind of connects these blue lines. That edge.
Mary, do you use paint after this is all dry sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, not for this type, but if I was doing a finished piece, but you know, it's collage is just a lot about layers. So
Yeah.
I would start with, I would show you one. I would start with like a canvas and just all neutral papers. So, you know, the kind of that, I don't know, antique-y color paper. So it might be old music sheets. And so I would start with a layer of all of that, like every inch kind of covered with that. And then I might put some paint on it just to soften some of those edges. And, you know, and kind of you're working on two strategies. One is you want to create layers and you want things to show through. And then the second strategy is texture. So depending upon, I like visual texture. I'm not a fan of a lot of like physical texture,
Right.
but a lot of collage artists will do that. So their initial layer of collage paper is somewhat to help them get some structure. So whether that's, you know, edges or not. So then I would use paint. But in this, I'm not. So it just depends, you know.
Then do you go back sometime with like another, the gold and the blue don't have lines on them, but.
Right.
So
And then
you-
I would do like on this one, because this is just a little sketchbook thing. I I would, and I probably did, I would go back and I'd use some pencil or some water, some, water soluble crayons to,
Mhm.
Use line. So that's another way, because you're also thinking about connecting shapes. So like hypothetically, that invoice paper, you might want to connect the lines. I'll show you one I did. So
Flip the computer.
this is one, this is
Uh,
one that I did where,
Flip your computer screen so it sees you.
what? Flip my computer screen?
Yeah, we're only recording the shared screen.
Oh, okay. All right, I won't flip it because I'm afraid to get it back.
Okay.
I'll show it to you at the end.
Okay.
But it shows you are thinking about connecting.
Gotcha.
The
Gotcha.
pieces together. All right. And you know what, and I can kind of fast forward through some of this. Let me just do that because I think you got the thing here.
And I'm really working on kind of putting another,
Is that gloss come in that squeeze bottle or did you put that in there?
I put it in there.
and I'll be
Yeah.
back once
Yeah.
the bird dries, because that's gonna,
Let's get to the end. So here's, whoops.
and then use some books to kind of weigh it down.
So let me
And
just
that
do
was
this real
like
quick.
2 hours. So there's still,
There we go.
so here's the finished collage.
And again, I
what I'm
didn't do
gonna
this for you guys to
is
think,
I'm gonna
wow,
put
that's great
another,
art, but it's
actually,
the
to
process.
get it to this point, after I finished, I let it dry mostly. I put a piece of jelly paper on top of it so it wouldn't stick, and then use some books to kind of weigh it down. And that was like 2 hours. So there's still some residual wrinkles, and it's my sketchbook, so it doesn't really matter. If I was doing this as a finished piece, I probably wouldn't use this paper, because there's a certain amount of wrinkles I could tolerate, and there's others that kind of really bother me. So this was just too heavy of a paper to use. So anyway, assuming this was something that I really wanted to keep, it was not a sketchbook piece, I would put the gel gloss medium on, and then once that completely dries, I use Gamlin cold wax. So that takes the shine from the gloss medium and evens out the surface finish. So hopefully that was helpful.
Okay, now I'll go back.
Okay. Show us that picture.
Oh, yeah. So, and I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm bouncing around a lot. There's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
So like this one, so the way this one, actually, I did this as part of a class. So how this started was you take like an image. So I took, I found this in on an old postcard.
Okay.
And then you begin it's almost like a puzzle. So I'm doing this backwards here. So my next step was I saw kind of these dark edges. So that's where I got this black paper and I put that in, and then I wanted that to continue up here. So you have to be thinking about connections as well.
From one thing to the next in value,
from one thing
like
to
you
the
said,
next.
the value close together.
Yeah, so that you're reading it, and here, like I just like squeezed some blue paint on this piece of paper so that kind of read like it was actually coming through here.
Gotcha.
So it's super fun. I mean, there's a lot to think about, but I
Is
can't.
that waxed?
This one I actually finished with a urethane finish. It's on a panel. So
Okay.
I did a urethane finish.
Do you find that all of the heavy papers buckle a little bit, or is it just I know that I've used the gel on top of things, but you do not.
Oh yeah, I do. I put the gel on top of it after it's done. Yeah.
but not why are you processing it? Like,
Not usually, because the papers are, depending upon, I'm trying to just use a variety, and depending upon how sensitive they are, I try not, because sometimes you can use the gel medium and then you're starting to like pull off some of the print.
right.
So I try, and that's hard because you really want to put it on there because you want to see what it looks like.
Yeah,
But I wait till it's dry, and I do a lot of, putting it under books to get the wrinkles out.
got you. Yeah, because it does why it, especially on paper, and well, I imagine on canvas too.
Yeah, yeah, I do. And honestly, it's for the most part, it works. I mean, you just have to, you just have to be patient.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh, darn it. Not for me.
yeah, so you have to be patient.
Now,
Um,
and when you let your image, once you put it down, you let it dry completely before you rub it off.
Yeah, I do, and I spray it with water. Yeah.
And there's not one that you put down like those jelly plates where you put down an image and then you lift it off. That has to be dry.
Yeah, the jelly plates is a whole other
Whole
thing.
other thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the laser print, I soak it in gel medium. I put it down. I make sure like I really press the ink
You
into
have a
it.
hefty amount of the gel on it.
Yeah, yeah. And then press the ink into the paper and then let it completely dry. Because what you want is literally it's that you're transferring the ink to the paper.
Now, when you said that is on a painted substrate, so do you try to keep that pretty smooth too, or the paint that's underneath it?
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's, again, I'm accepting of the, the imperfections. If it doesn't affix to one area, I'm accepting of it. And even like that, the wharf, I did go back into that one with some paint,
Right.
some areas that I wasn't happy with, and I went back into it with paint. So that clearly is an option too.
I have seen some other ones where they use a partial, like you were saying, you cut it up, um, but if as opposed to like say ripping, or I guess you could do whatever you feel like.
Yeah, well, that goes back to that. I'm glad you mentioned that. So that goes back to the kind of the differences. You want soft edges and you want hard edges. So when you rip the paper, and I do a lot of that. So when just against a ruler, I rip it. That that edge does kind of affix in a way that kind of softens it. So
Uh-huh.
it's good to do a combination.
Right. When you go back and look at it, if you're trying to get soft edges, is there a way that or do you just look at it while it's still wet and you have time to process it?
Um, if let's say I put a piece of paper down and I should have done a soft edge and I didn't do a soft edge, the beauty of collage is you just put something on top of it.
Oh,
I mean, you kind of, you can make,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Make something with soft edge to
yeah,
create
yeah.
that.
And then that demo that I did, those little gold pieces of tissue,
Right.
those were ripped pieces, but they were alongside a very structural cut, rounded dark shape. So that's the differences. That's kind of what you want.
That created that sort of
Yeah.
soft.
So soft edge, hard edge, darks, lights, large, small, round.
It was interesting what you said about connecting your darks or your middle values together to take it across that painting. And that didn't occur to me. And I was like, oh,
Yeah. I can grab, I don't know how much more time we have. I can just show you in a sketchbook a couple of more examples.
sure. We have a couple more minutes.
question.
Yeah.
But
So Mary, I've seen some of your work that looks like it's primarily a painting, but then there are some collaged elements in the painting.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
is that, are you fixing those also with medium? Like you can paint an acrylic painting and then,
yeah, I'll show you one. This is one that was in the gallery.
Mhm.
So This is a combination. So these are image transfers. So those are, from, just like that bird, that's from the same website. So those are
But did you transfer them the same kind of way directly onto the painted surface?
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's the beauty of acrylic. I mean, it sticks to anything.
Yeah,
And then you
that's
just put
amazing.
the gel
uh,
over the top of it so it doesn't, you don't lose the image.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
really
Like
printmaking.
this is
Not,
a collage piece, this kind of
Barbed wire.
linear thing. God, I did this so long ago, I can't remember.
is the red in the corner a
Yeah,
paint?
this is a
That,
piece of tissue paper.
uh-huh.
And then this is just out of like my college, where they ask you for money magazine they sent me. And then I have in here, I have line. So I did, pencil line. And
After
this is an example too of the layering that I talked about. So underneath of here was just some collage paper, but it's very subtle.
that'll coming
You
through.
painted
Over.
acrylic over the
Yeah.
top, and
Yeah.
some of that looks like maybe even graphite pencil,
Yeah.
and then sealed the whole thing with the gloss medium.
And then seal the whole thing with the gloss medium. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Hmm,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So this is actually, I'm glad you brought that up because image transfers don't have to be the thing. It can complement,
And
Right.
in that
And here I
painting
did
behind
stencil.
you-
That's the other thing we didn't talk about is that could be a whole other demo.
Oh, yeah.
I did some stenciling here.
Ooh,
That's stencil, and I think this is stencil. So mixed media, that's why they call it mixed media.
Right.
yeah.
Very
In the-
fun.
Wow.
Very
in the thing on the wall behind you, the big black, those big black curlicue things. How are
Yeah.
those done?
Those are actually, that's, part of the series. Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
those.
laser. So I have a stencil that is this shape, and this was the
Uh-huh.
packaging for it. And on the laser printer, I printed I blew it up on my computer to be much larger than the packaging. And
Yeah.
I printed it on the laser printer, and then did a bunch of different varieties where I grayed out the color and then
Wow.
before
So
I
that's an
printed it.
image transfer.
It's paper.
Yeah.
Oh,
These
it's
are literally paper. Yeah.
except
So
that
you
These
you
are
didn't
up
use
on
the
the laser
stencil.
tape
Yeah.
print, like literally the paper, the laser print on the paper.
oh, okay. And you also said that you were putting your wet strength tissue paper through the laser printer. So you just cut it like 8.5 by 11 and
I
stack
tape
it in there?
tape it to
Oh,
like a
tape
copier
it.
paper.
I see.
I was gonna ask
So
that.
that's that.
And
This
the,
one. Yeah. That one is printed like that light gray one.
Yeah.
And then this is like a book I got on the street in New York. It's a Japanese translation book. I clean my palette on that.
Wow.
and use it.
So
Have fun.
you just kind of go for it. It's just all you're doing is playing, frankly. Yeah,
So cool.
yeah. It's fun.
Are
Yeah.
there any other questions? Anybody have any questions you want to ask Mary before we get off of the recording? No? Well, Mary, thank you. This
Can you
was,
show us just a couple more? Do you have?
oh yeah, show us your sketchbook.
Oh, my sketchbook, sure. Let me find it.
Oh.
Hold on.
There was a question at 4:30 about being confused about how the image transfer works. Is that still a question?
No, we answered that one.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Where did I put my sketchbook? Hold on.
There's just endless ways to do this kind of thing that it's so interesting how people look at structure versus, more abstract
Yeah.
or, like in art to life, they use a lot of, I don't know if they use a lot of image transfers, but I mean, I'm sure some of them do, but
Yeah, but he gets, he has students that do all different things.
yeah.
But yeah, there's still he does a little tutorial on that. So these are some things I did from classes, actually. Um, so this is just, okay, so this was a class, and she did a class on making papers. So this is I don't know if it's the exam paper, but it's a transparent paper, and you use water soluble crayons, and you just kind of scribble, and then and then you kind of can wet it down, and then I just transferred it onto my sketchbook, and then this is just like a piece of collage paper. This is full on playing,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's making transparent papers. Let's see. And then this is same kind of group of instructors, but you take a magazine, and you go through and you look at black and white images. And again, all you're discriminating, what you want to do is just look for graphics, like not for images.
Bang.
So,
Yeah.
for example, this was a fashion magazine, and that's the edge of this kind of feathery coat that I used. But this was a good exercise on the whole issue of having things connect.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this and this, like the layering effect. That was fun.
Well,
then
and
just
that
like
gets you out
I
of
dropped a
your,
piece of black, I just squeezed some black ink on a tissue paper and threw that in there. So that's
I think for people that are more literal minded, I mean, I have a hard time doing abstractions. I think that's a really good exercise to get you out of a thing
yeah.
and connecting the values.
Yeah. And then this is what kind of work. Actually, I was kind of looking at this as more of those birds. I have a good book. It's like just a fundamentals of collage, and he does a lot of, in the book, they do a lot of like duplicates, and I think
Uh-huh.
it's fun. So I did that.
I think that duplicates create a conversation.
Yeah. And then this one, the other type of paper that's great is that brown paper you get in Amazon packages. That affixes
Oh, yeah.
to substrates really well. It lays really flat. So this one, and this, it got kind of messed up. But anyway, this was like a letter, like I found a letter that my husband aunt wrote to him, and I just put that in there. It kind of bled a lot, but that's the other thing. So it's like it's something I'm keeping. It's my sketchbook, and it's that letter. I would have thrown it away.
Yeah. Now, do you think it bled because of the medium?
It was like ink pen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was ink pen. So I just doodled on top of it. So I think that's, yeah. And then this was a total just experiment, but on a tissue paper, I just drew lines with a crayon, and then I fixed it upside down, so it was just more
Backwards, yeah.
So like a full-blown artist that's completely not playing anymore, that's really a collage artist, they would go back through their sketchbook and said, wow, I liked how I'm going to do that again. Like,
Oh, yeah, exactly, exactly.
notes
That's a
about-
really, really good way to
yeah,
look
make
at
notes
your
about, wow, that
sketchbook as
worked. And I'm gonna try-
information for further painting, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mary,
All
again,
right.
thank you
Good.
on behalf of the CCAA and for doing this, and thank everybody for tuning in. And
Yeah.
will be available for you on Central Coast Art Association on their YouTube channel as soon as Jane puts it up.
All right.
I'm going
Thank
to
you so
stop the
much for
recording.
inviting me. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. That was really wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome, Jane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Bye.